Here's a interesting photo. I don't know if you can see it all the way in the back there, but anybody got a sense of what this is? Like I could tell you, it's a snow up on the mesas above the Grand Canyon. Or it could be a satellite image above the mouth of the Mississippi Delta. Actually, it could be a scanning electron micrograph of the neural pathway in your brain, the capillary bed at the end of your finger, one of your lungs with your pulmonary bronchial alveoli system, or it could just be looking up into a tree in the Costa Rican rainforest, which is what it is. The point is brains, blood vessels, lungs, trees, watersheds, deltas, canyons, every one of those forms is sculpted and crafted by the flow of water. Every one of them. Water is a scale-independent lubricator of life. So basically, as far as I can tell, the water cycle and the life cycle are the same cycle. There's no separation. And the sooner we begin to engage holistically with a life cycle that's based on water, the quantity and quality of water, the water supply and the water quality, the better off we'll be. Every living being on the planet, this is where the biologist in me mostly got engaged with this work, when you're actively respiring and living and growing and being healthy, by volume, every living organism on the planet is mostly water by volume. Right? Your carbon-based life forms, as far as I can tell, maybe there's some aliens out there that are silicon or sulfur-based critters, but your carbon-based life forms. And so hydration is the most important thing. It's the most important medicine. So on that note, I propose a toast. You all stay hydrated and drink some good water today. Now, where that water comes from is an interesting question. Right? But at least for all of you bipedal sacs of saline solution, you should definitely stay hydrated because it's the best medicine you got. Everything in society that you can tell me about, energy and food and industry, wastewater, all of it's got a water at the base of it. The whole thing is a water foundation. And water underlies everything we do out there. There's a wonderful gentleman who was a hydrologist at Berkeley, Luna Leopold. And I just appreciate this quote. This idea that water's a critical resource of our lifetime, our children's lifetime. That one seems fair enough. But that the health of our waters is the principal measure of how we live on the land is an interesting benchmark of how do we evaluate the success of how we're doing in a place over time. And the health of your waters, the quantity and quality of your waters in comparison to those old photos you see back there and to today is just an indicator. It's a baseline indicator. And you can pick and choose how you wish to interpret that. But generally, sustainable societies through time were those that fundamentally took care of their water where they live. So I do feel compelled to, as I'm flying over at the 1,000-foot level or the many 1,000-foot level with this image, to honor the fact that back here on planet water, this tempestuous being is going through some changes. And to the degree that thus those of us as humans are responsible for these changes, right, the inconvenient truth of climate change is upon us. And you don't need the scientific community to tell us about that necessarily, right? We've been hanging out the dirty laundry or the clean laundry for a while on this. I was recently in Brazil, and I can tell you, in 2008, the bathing suits along the steamer have gotten smaller. Here's the key piece of climate change. I think it's cogent to bring up at every time we speak, because all of our lives in the future are going to be dealing with the implication of climate change or global warming. If you've got an atmosphere that as sunlight comes in and hits the planet and bounces off and gets captured and it creates a greenhouse effect, and we're really happy that has been occurring, the challenge is we've basically, through the combustion of fossil fuels, or fossil fools, some would say, we've thickened that blanket. And so you're laying in bed, and I'm going to put an extra blankie on the bed. And you don't get to kick a leg out. And I'm going to put another blanket on the bed. The only way you have to deal with the fact that you're starting to overheat is what? You got to sweat. You have to change the phase state of water from a liquid to a gas. Well, the planet's got, the only thing the planet can do to deal is that. So if you look at these observations from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, this is back in 2007, that air temperatures and ocean temperatures, melting of snow and ice, and rising mean sea level, every one of those are water-based indicators. Every climate change indicator out there has to be a water-based indicator. The planet's going to melt the solid to a liquid first to cool it. Then it's going to move the liquid to gas in hurricanes and typhoons to move the energy. It has no other choice. It's really pretty simple. How that plays out for us here in California for water supply, for Sierra snowpack, for things of how this planet is going to interact, for drying, for droughts, for floods, for river flows, for groundwater supply, for water quality, is worth thinking through. As we design and talk about, you get all into the creekside development of Compton Creek, how do you forecast the behavior of that system with some of the uncertainty? And how do we design for adaptation and resiliency I guess I just want that to be an underlying thought for you. It leaves some critters shaking their head wondering what's up and if the hominids are going to get it squared away in time. And maybe I've got you to the point where you're like, dude, I came to be all upbeat today, and now you're telling me the Titanic's going down. The folks who survive such things, metaphorically, poetically here, get themselves in a lifeboat. And the lifeboat, I think, that I'm interested in as a designer, as a community organizer, would be called a watershed. And the Compton Creek watershed, or the LA Basin watershed, is like a lifeboat. It's a shaped entity, then up at the top of the watershed, the stern, if you will, and the stem up here, and everything that happens until it meets the ocean is within a shared basin of relation. And every land use that's happening in there, from top to bottom, we have a collective opportunity to have a discussion about how are we going to build resiliency into that system to support our aspirations as people, our economic aspirations, our educational, our social, our spiritual aspirations. How do we do that within a container that's actually a real thing? This is not a fake thing. Watersheds are the process of geology and hydrology. And so your living lifeboat, as far as I can tell at the big scale here, is this Los Angeles River watershed, and where Compton Creek comes in down here at the bottom end of things. From what I gather, historically Compton Creek actually was a separate watershed that went to the ocean, but it was at some point joined to the flood control system of the Los Angeles River. But what's it going to look like? And what are the folks doing up here in San Fernando Valley? And what are the folks doing here in LA proper? What's happening in the lower reach? How is that coordinated, and how do you deal with that? But honoring that you all share this basin of relation is mostly the take-home I'm trying to get there. And so wherever folks are in the watershed, at the headwaters, in the middle reaches, at the lower reaches, you have a responsibility and you have rights, and you get to participate in doing with what is within your reach in a good way. And let the folks upstream figure it out, but hopefully it's a coordinated effort.